16 people have joined now. Oh,
Chalo,
-2.
okay, so we can, hi, good morning, folks. This is Ashish Pachauri again. And I think based on what you just heard from Dr. Mittal, I also feel that this has been a one-way communication so far. And at least I have not had any feedback or interaction. And I'm really not sure if in my classes I'm being too technical or too non-technical, or you find these concepts too sort of everyday or routine to have relevance for you. So I'm not sure of that for the whole but I am trying to see that students from all disciplines are able to benefit and get a flavor of what they can expect in the industry as they enter the workforce. But there is one thing though that I can say with full confidence, and it is that I think it's a great initiative by a new IIT like IIT Goa to introduce a progressive topic like digital transformation in its curriculum, even as an elective. And I'm quite sure that this is a trend that will be emulated by other IITs also. So you have a great opportunity here to become a trend setter. And the more you take away from these sessions, the better prepared you will be to join the digital workforce in future. Trust me, I have spent 35 years in that field. So I know what is expected from people, and I'm trying to very carefully talk about only those concepts which I know are going to be of great relevance to you. So having said this, I do believe that more interaction in the sessions will make it worthwhile for you as well as for us as your sort of instructors. So topics like the one we are discussing today, which is business technology alignment, and in some of the following lectures, for example, alignment or customer experience management and innovation, cannot really be confined to textbook explanations or formulas, right? Which is probably what you are more used to. So they are more to do with behaviors and experiences, our attitudes, behaviors, all that matters a lot more. And they have existed long before the digital age. However, in the digital age, they have become very vital. They have become a survival skill, which is why we are focusing on this. Okay, so if we do a class on innovation for you, for example, it doesn't mean that you do not know what is innovation or how to innovate. But because this is a survival skill, so we need to put that innovation in the right perspective about how it matters for digital companies and for digital transformation. All right, so let's start with setting the backdrop. In fact, I would like to leave one more very important message here, that um, many of the concepts here are best explained through examples. So I would request you to listen very carefully, because even in the assignments that we give you later on, you will be asked to relate examples from your own experiences or lives on the similar topics. So listen to the examples very carefully so that you can relate to them, and you can apply the same concepts to your own past as well as for assignments and future lives for your profession. So let me also start with a story from a period, and these are very, I'm trying to make very interesting. They maybe not be very suspenseful stories like a Hindi movie or something, but they are stories from my experience, and they are introduced or included in the class only so that you can absorb and appreciate the concept that we are talking about. Okay, so I have just noted down some points on a story that I thought I will start with. So I was in Singapore in 1997 to attend the Asia Pacific Service Conference of our parent company, who was a global leader in high-tech equipment. Now, this example I'm trying to give as for to illustrate the importance of business technology alignment. We all know that it is important for functions to be aligned, but why and what is the impact of it is what I'm trying to illustrate through an example before we proceed to the next rest of the presentation. So this workshop in Singapore that I was talking about, the theme of this workshop was service strategy as a market differentiator. I hope that term is clear. Service strategy as a market differentiator. Now, presentations on service strategy were made by the service managers from 12 countries, including myself from India. I had gone from India. Similarly, the same company had its offices in 12 other companies, each of which had the 12 other countries, each of which had their service manager. And I had gone from India. So the service managers were coming and making presentations about how the services were and how what the customers were doing and what they were expecting, and what kind of delivery these people were providing to customers to meet their expectations. So it was going on. Suddenly, when the turn came of a country called Philippines, so we were very surprised to see not one but two people stepping up on for the presentation. there was a podium in front. So typically one person would go and present. Now here, when the turn of Philippines came, two people went up. We were surprised, and it turned out that one was the service manager while the other was the sales manager. But we were all wondering, what is the sales manager doing in a service workshop? In those days, and as I said, it is 1997. In those days, it was not very common to see sales and service people together, as they were always on opposite sides of the divide. Okay, so everyone was very curious. So sales and service people never really interacted with each other much. So it had so happened now that, so then the story unfolded as to why is it that there were two people there. So it had so happened that a few months ago, there was a frantic call one afternoon to the companies that company in Philippines. When I say company, I mean that company in Philippines, to the company's salesperson from a hospital come research facility in Philippines that had purchased advanced medical equipment from this company. Now, the call had come from the operator of the MRI scanner machine. I hope all of you understand and know what's an MRI scanner machine. It's a machine which has a sort of like a tubular kind of a thing in which the patient lies down and then the tube is pushed inside, and there is a magnetic scanning done of the entire body, and then it is released and the tube comes out. So it was the operator of the MRI scanner machine, and he was sounding very frantic because his worst nightmare had come true. There was an unconscious patient, probably a victim of an accident. There was an unconscious patient whose magnetic scan or imaging was being done, which he had been placed on the sliding table and pushed into the tubular scanner. I hope you can visualize the situation. The trouble was it won't retract and open. So the patient was stuck inside. Imagine that situation. And the patient was unconscious. So there was an emergency button inside, but being unconscious, the patient could not operate the emergency button inside. The machine had a console outside, of course, from where the operator was running it, and he could not retract the patient. He was trying his best, but he could not do it. The operator did not, and this guy operator was not even having the number of who to contact, the service engineer or the service technology person to phone number, and so he had the number of the salesperson. So he called the sales guy, as it was the only number he had. Now, sales guy, when he listened, he was also shocked and shaken rather on hearing the story, and he called the service engineer for help. He had the contact of the service engineer, of course. So the service engineer left for the hospital quickly as soon as he got the message. But the question was, would he make it in time or would the patient die? Because it was a life and death situation. And this is a true story, by the way. So meanwhile, and I was myself witness to it. And meanwhile, the operator at the hospital, because it would take some time to reach the hospital for the service engineer. So this guy, meanwhile, the operator at the hospital, through a series of whatever he knew, he had some trial and error. He succeeded in activating the machine's timeout mechanism. Earlier, it was not activated. So the machine had a timeout mechanism, but an operator had not set it. But ultimately, by trials and errors, he succeeded in setting the timeout mechanism, and the machine opened on its own after a few very tense minutes, and the patient was saved. That was a very good thing of that outcome of the whole situation. But there were some important lessons here. First, because later on a detailed post-mortem was done of the situation. So first, the service team was measuring itself on internal parameters, like, for example, what is the mean time between failures, or what is the mean time to repair, or what is the first call. I mean, how many out of every 100 calls that the service engineer attends, how many are solved in one visit? Those kind of parameters, they are important to service organization, but the customer doesn't care about these things, right? None of these would have saved the patient's life in a crisis like what we just talked about. The focus was clearly internal. It was not on the outcome. What is the outcome what would have been the ideal outcome here, which in this case, it would have been ensuring the safety of the patient and providing accurate diagnostics. That should have been the outcome of the service guy. Instead, the service guy's focus was on how to measure his own effectiveness, how to measure his department's effectiveness. That is not relevant. And as you go into the digital world, you will see the relevance of this more and more. Secondly, there was no interaction between sales and service people, which would have helped to plan an emergency response, like, for example, training the operator or setting up a remote control center or putting an engineer on site for emergency situations. None of this was planned because there was no interaction between the sales or the business team and the service or the technology team. The good thing was that after this incident, the company's management decided that sales and service would henceforth create their strategy and operations plan jointly and communicate it to the world together, not alone, but together. That is, be equal stakeholders in the business outcome. It is not service responsibility, it is not sales responsibility alone. It is the responsibility of both of them. Okay, so which is why the sales and service managers were together on the stage presenting the services strategy. Because of this experience, they had taken it as a conscious policy decision. So a big round of applause followed, of course, and a good lesson was learned, though the hard way. Though I did not realize it at that time, this was in 1997. This was my earliest introduction to the importance of outcome-based IT. We'll talk about it more between business and technology. But that means a technology function which is focused on the outcome. So this was my earliest introduction to the importance of outcome-based IT and alignment between business and IT. Okay, so this is what I just wanted to set as a backdrop. I hope you listen to the story and can relate it to some probably similar experiences in your own lives. Now let us move on. I'll try to move quickly so that we can cover this is a very important, very critical. In fact, you cannot have digital transformation without business technology alignment. That is why, even though we all have our own concept, we understand what business technology alignment means. We are living in the 21st century after all, but still it is important to put it in context. So in the digital age, technology has, I'm now on the slide number 2, which I've just changed. And in this age now, technology has not just integrated strongly with the business. You have to understand that. Let me put up this diagram. Yes, okay, this will make it clear. So what we see from this diagram is that technology has not only integrated strongly with the business, it has become indistinguishable from business. Okay, for example, today, if you talk of 5G or IoT or artificial intelligence, are these business terms or are these technology terms? There is no difference. I mean, it is because technology and business have become one with each other. However, it was not always so. As you can see, I mean, these are not diagrams drawn on a how should I say, unified kind of a time scale. But like, for example, IT, we discussed in an earlier lecture also that we had batch processing, then client server, PC, mini computers, mainframes, all that happened. Internet came, World Wide Web came, then cloud came, then e-commerce came, and finally the digital age came. Similarly, business is also progress through different stages like manufacturing age, distribution age, information age, customer age, and finally the digital age. Digital age is where business and technology have merged together into a single entity. Okay, so now from a manufacturing point of view, if you see the new technologies, all the digital technologies which have gone into making the whole manufacturing process, the whole cycle digital, is called Industry 4.0. I mean, use of advanced robotics, 3D printing, IoT, machine to machine, digital technology, artificial intelligence, all this is part of the digital age, and it is referred to as from a production and manufacturing and perspective, it is known as Industry 4.0. Today, I'm not going to talk about Industry 4.0, but this is also an important concept, which I hope one day we will be able to talk about what was Industry 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, and 4.0. Okay, so for now, I will move on to the next slide, because many of the concepts that we are discussing here so have already been talked about earlier. What the message that I want to leave from this slide is that business IT alignment, though we are saying alignment, as I said, it is actually a unification. Okay, it's a prerequisite to digital transformation. Therefore, digital transformation cannot occur without close alignment between business and IT. And I'm sure it is clear to most of you, but as we go through this class, this should become more clear. For example, look at companies like Uber. We keep giving the same examples, but because they are the biggest and most visible examples in front of us, look at companies like Uber or Airbnb or even the Zoom, okay, or PayPal, payment companies. You can think of many companies and most other new age companies. Would you call these business companies, or rather, let me not use the word companies. Think of these companies that I just mentioned, Uber and Zoom and PayPal and Airbnb. Would you call these business successes, or would you call these technology successes? It's very difficult to say whether this is a business success or a technology success. But the fact is, it is a success of business technology alignment. Okay, it is neither a business success alone. Uber could not have existed on the basis of business alone. They needed a strong technology alignment in order to succeed. Similarly, they could not have succeeded if it was just technology and no business model along with it. So it was when both came together that this success happened. And similarly, there are so many examples. I'm sure you can come up with many examples of a similar type. So basically, the success of the digital age is owed in a large part to the success of business technology alone, not business alone, not technology alone, but business technology alignment. Okay, so this is the message. So one more thing that I would like to emphasize, especially from the point of view of all of you who are going to be making their careers in the digital world, that you will see the rise and fall of many technologies through your careers. Whether you go into business or you go into technology, you'll see the rise and fall of many technologies. In fact, in the last 10 years, if you see, so many new technologies have come, so many old technologies have gone, and same thing I'm sure will continue in the future also. However, one thing that you will always live with is alignment of technology with business. Irrespective of whether you are in business or technology, alignment will play a key role in shaping your future. So wherever you are, you have to align with your counterparts in the opposite function. In fact, alignment is necessary for other functions also. For example, technology with supply chain management, or technology with HR, or business with finance. All those are important. I'm not undermining the importance of any of them. However, it is the alignment between business and technology functions that is truly driving the digital economy. So I'm stopping here for a minute. I hope you have some questions or thoughts that you would like to share at this point before I go to the next slide. Okay, so I'll go to the next slide then. The next slide is what is, okay, I'm using the term beta. When I wrote my first book on business technology alignment, which was published, and there I introduced this term, not where because business information technology or business technology alignment is a long word to use when you have to use it throughout the book. So I had coined the abbreviation called beta. It stands for business technology alignment or business IT alignment. It could be either. Today, technology refers more and more to information technology. Okay, unless you are in a production plant or some other such facility. For our purposes, when we say technology, we mean information technology, which includes everything from a laptop all the way to the cloud computing or big data analytics. Okay, so business technology alignment. Uh, uh, Let us just define what it is. As I said, there is no exact definition because it's not an exact science, but let us try to grasp it conceptually. So the digital enterprise operates in a very, how shall I say, dynamic market where expectations keep changing. I mean, for us as customers, we keep demanding more and more from the companies that serve us in this digital world. So business technology alignment ensures that IT can quickly respond, or IT or technology can quickly respond with the required solution to support this momentum. See, customers will demand more and more. How do companies respond to those expectations? By aligning between business and technology so that business can understand the customer needs and technology can deliver on those customer needs. So they have to work hand in hand. Further, the digital enterprises have technological advances at the core of their strategies. Okay, today you cannot build a digital enterprise without technology at the core. So basically, business and technology are integrated by design itself. Okay, you cannot succeed without strong business technology alignment because for a business organization has technology at its core. Unlike earlier, as we discussed in the last class, that earlier the core of the enterprise was the raw material or capital or labor. Now it is technology. Okay, so business technology alignment calls for, now what we looking at the definition that I have written here on the slide. Business technology alignment calls for business and technology to think, build, and operate together. The keyword is together on all issues impacting business outcome. Now, think, build, and operate seem simple terms, but they are basically the essence of a modern enterprise. Think does not, I mean, when I say business, that business and technology people think together, it doesn't mean that other people don't think. Basically, there are certain activities which fall under the umbrella of think, like for example, planning, designing, sharing, analyzing and of data. All that comes under the umbrella of think. Other part of the business is called build, which is develop. Basically, when you have designed something, you have to develop it also. So developing it, delivering it to the customer, deploying it at the customer site, and with time optimizing it. These are definitions. And finally, operate. That means execute it, monitor it, secure it, support it. These are, I'm speaking in very broad terms. We can go keep drilling down to more and more depth and detail, but these are the important parts. So basically, business technology alignment, or beta as I called it, refers to business and IT team thinking, building, and operating together for a shared goal. And what is that shared goal? That shared goal is to make the business successful. Making the business successful is not a business responsibility. Making the business successful is the responsibility of the technology team also. Okay, so this is very critical. Most of the people in technology team think that making revenue growth or profitability, etc., is not their problem. That is wrong. The biggest change that the digital world has brought to the world of business, or the digital age has brought to the world of business, is this whole change in concept that business success is equally a function of technology. It is not just a function of business, which is why we are emphasizing the importance of business technology alignment. Now look at this little circuit here. The two batteries are business and technology. If you remove one of the batteries, there will be no business value. That means the bulb will not light. So it is like this only. Both business and technology are equally required. Okay, they are connected through alignment, but if you remove that alignment, there is no business value. If you equate it to a small circuit diagram, you will see that the bulb won't light up. Okay, so this is what is very important to remember, that it is both business and technology that drive business success, and therefore the importance of business technology alignment for digital organization is extremely high. If you don't have business technology alignment, if you have not invested time as a company to align between business and technology, there is no point in investing in technology and other aspects to become a digital enterprise, because you won't become, you will not succeed. This is fundamental. Business and technology have to align together. Now,
yeah, Ashish, just a minute. So just wanted to emphasize here is that any business today will require technology. It's
correct.
not the business has to technology. It could be, you know, as simple as a cement production plant, right, or something. They all need IT technology. Maybe one of you can tell us where exactly IT is required in, say, industries that are working in mechanical engineering domain, right? So maybe anybody who's doing MTech or BTech in mechanical.
Yeah, that's a good question. If any of you can tell, any enterprise, whether it is cement or manufacturing or mechanical or electrical, does not matter. If you are a digital enterprise, okay, this is important. So I think it's a good question. If anybody can relate to any example from the mechanical world of where business and technology need to work together to, so that would be a good thing. Can anyone say an example? We talked about some examples just now. Any other example? Think about it. Otherwise, I will include this in an assignment. But because this is very important, because as I said, see, I think Dr. Mittal has also been emphasizing this, and I have also been saying this. See, these are, I can only leave you with certain concepts. You have to imbibe them in your mind. You have to churn them in your mind, and then think where this can be applied in the real world. Today, people who are like you, most of you, people in their teens or early 20s, they are becoming startup owners. They set up startups and big companies. Basically, they use same concepts. They don't use something, they just get an idea, but in order to convert that idea into business requires these concepts to play out. So it's important that you are able not only to understand them, but to relate it and to give examples from your own thinking also.
Aryan, you are there? Aryan Bhagat? Aryan? Or Animesh Sharma?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Okay, so can you just answer the question? Can you think of an example where close alignment of business and technologies are required? Alternatively, you can give an example where it is not required. Any example where technology is not required?
So like in current domain, like I've worked with startup in the 6 month internship part, and so like I was basically working in the electrical part, but for the enclosures and casing of those things, like we had a mechanical guy. So like sometimes I went with him to the workshops where those the prototypes were being prepared. So they are like it was a very crude workshop, and they still use manual tools. So for small scale, you don't necessarily need technology, but if you want to scale it up and use like you want to serve 100 customers, you need technology to keep track of things. You need CNC machines and you need lathe machines, which can basically leverage technology to serve a wider customer base.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's well said. And see, basically, it is not so much a matter of large or small. It is a matter of whether you want to be a digital company or not a digital company. Eventually, my reading is that most businesses, if not all businesses, big or small or micro or medium or large, they will all move to digital. Most of them today are, to some extent or to a large extent, are already using digital technologies in some aspect or the other. But I think in order to survive in future, they cannot refrain or cannot uh, refuse to transform to digital. They cannot resist it anymore. Okay, so because the time is now come when not being digital is going to spell disaster for the company. Okay, so let's move on. But I would request, like Ravi just said, I think it's a good idea to think of these from your, whether you come from electrical or mechanical or whichever discipline of engineering, whatever concepts you are talking about, try and relate it to your, maybe some of these concepts you may find are not making sense to you because in your experience you have not seen it happen. It would be good for you to speak that out as well. Okay, but it would be good to interact. It gives us also some little bit of the confidence and a greater enthusiasm to continue. Okay, anyhow, so I'm moving on now. See, the one more thing about alignment, I would say that a lot of people, when we talk about business technology alignment, in fact, even if you Google the term business technology alignment, you will find that it refers to an alignment between the strategies of business and technology. While that is true, I'm not saying that strategies do not have to be aligned. If companies that align only at the level of their strategy do not become successful digital enterprises. There are actually 7 dimensions of alignment, which I cannot go into the depths of each of them right now, but I will just touch upon what these 7 dimensions are in this slide. Okay. Now this, yeah, so this business technology alignment actually equals alignment at the level of 7 dimensions. First is the culture, which means the business and technology people live by the same set of beliefs and principles. I'm talking about large digital enterprises or successful digital, rather large is not the right term, successful digital enterprises. Second, they have to align definitely at the strategy level, which means that business and technology teams derive their goals from the same mission. It is not, see, a lot of times it is common when you will go into organization, you will find what, this is my technology mission, this is my business mission. That does not work. In a successful digital organization, there is just one mission, and both technology and business derive their goals and strategies from that one mission only. So that is what aligning at the strategy level means. Aligning at the level of structure, which is number 3, that means that there has to be synergy in skills, roles, and responsibilities of business and IT people. Today, you will find that in most organizations, there are business people which are going into technical roles, and tech savvy people are joining business organizations. If you're not tech savvy, you cannot be just being a good salesman is not enough. You have to be tech savvy. Similarly, just being a core technical hearted person is not enough. You have to be business minded also. So both skills are required. Okay, then we come to alignment at the level of process, which means that business and IT processes are, both of them are tuned to the changing needs, like we discussed 2 minutes ago, to the changing or dynamic needs and expectations of customers. The intellect part that I have written is actually refers to innovation, which is one of the most important constituents of digital culture. It means that there has to be a shared passion for creating or enhancing present and future business value through innovative use of technology. Okay, so if you look at any digital organization today, in fact, I can stop here and ask a question that for any given company, like for example, Alibaba or whatever, what was that one wave of innovation that created the company? So basically, and then there are several waves. It is not that you get one initial idea and build a company on that and then you stop innovating. You have to keep innovating. So innovation has to be a constant process. So basically, as I said, it's a shared passion for creating value. Okay, through innovative use of technology, both by business and technology functions. New business models, for example, that they come up, they are also based on innovative use of technology. Then alignment at the level of function. This is very important, though not very clear from the term. But aligning at the functional level means that the priorities, the day-to-day priorities which drive business and organization, or which drive decision making, for example. Okay, so they have to be harmonized in terms of the priorities that drive the decisions or the actions or the measurements. So those it is not just the strategy, but also the prioritization at a functional level of what you think is right. So that what this functional alignment is basically about assessing and measuring the business value of technology. Okay, so if and you will decide what the priorities are, and based on that, decide how you will measure the business value of technology and stay aligned on that. Okay, and try to improve that business value of technology. This is a slightly more abstract concept, I would admit, maybe, but let's leave it at that. Then finally, we have the tactical alignment, which means that we already had talked about strategic alignment. Tactical alignment means step blocking for executing the joint business IT strategy. That means, like, for example, your service function or your operations, all this is part of your tactics. These are very important. So I'm just leaving it here for you. We want to be talking about alignment in terms of its 7 dimensions here and now. Any of you are interested can talk to me about it. I had written my last book on this subject, only mastering the 7 dimensions of business technology alignment. But for now, I want to leave you with the with higher level concept. So basically, when we talk about, we have introduced the term business IT alignment, but let me try to give you another good story here. Again, this is from my experience. It was actually related to me by somebody from a very renowned software company. I cannot name it. Okay, when I was interviewing people for writing my first book on digital transformation. So this, this will be true of many of you, maybe a year or two from now. So listen to this carefully. I have noted down some points about this story. It will take about 3-4 minutes to tell. So this is a few years ago. One of the US clients of a software company, which I said I cannot name right now, but for our discussion, let us call it Software Services Firm, or SSF. Okay, we'll call it SSF. So a few years ago, one of the US clients of a company called SSF visited their development facilities in India, okay, to evaluate SSF for a new project. Okay, now SSF was one of the 4 shortlisted companies whose centers were being visited by the client team during the week. So the day started at 10 a.m. with the arrival of the client at the facilities, and there was a lot of, as I say, hoopla about it, and there was this traditional Indian welcome of garlanding, lamp lighting, etc. All that was done. Then the client team was cordially escorted into a very swanky facilities with a space age kind of conference room, which had a lot of refreshments, flowers, and beautifully done up conference room. And in the same conference room, the client team also met the directors and all the senior management of this company called SSF, which showed a lot of eagerness to serve. After this, the client team was shown some very impressive PowerPoint slides on SSF's people and processes, their success rate, client testimonials, etc. Okay, so it was it was a typical meeting with a important client, a big client. Okay, now after lunch, which was of course very sumptuous, the client made an unexpected request. This client had recently acquired a company, another company, let's call it AC or AC2, because it's another company. So this client had recently acquired another company, which we will call AC2, which was also an existing client of SSF. Okay, so SSF was already running a development work or development projects for a company called AC2, which had been acquired by the client. Okay, so the director of the client company asked if they could visit the development center that this SSF was ran for AC2 and interact with the team members there. It was a normal request that, okay, I want to go and see your development center and talk to your people. This was not part of the routine. So therefore, there was some reluctance shown by the SSF business people, okay, that there is no notice or there are issues of client security, confidentiality, etc. But eventually, it was agreed. After all, a big client is requesting it, so they agreed. Okay, now what followed brought a major twist to the story. As this client team walked into the delivery center for AC2, which had the delivery center, by the way, had not even been informed or alerted formally. There was just some mildly curious glances at who's come here, but otherwise it was business as usual. Everybody went about their work. So the director of this client team, which had come from US, stopped at a corner desk where there was a young lady who was sitting at a workstation with 2 screens in front of her. Typically, if you have visited development centers of companies like TCS, Infosys, Cognizant, Wipro, all these companies, you will find that there are 2 big screens in front of every software developer. So he spoke to this lady directly, asked her about who she was and what was her experience and what was the role in the project. So it turned out that she was 2 years out of college, relatively a fresher, and was an associate software engineer assigned to this AC2 project. The client asked her a series of questions relating to the project and how her work fit into the larger picture. And she gave very detailed and accurate answer to each question and spoke about AC2, the company. She knew about AC2, what was AC2. She knew about the mission of the company. She knew about the various touch points or whom to talk to for what issues. She knew about the processes for staying in sync on the deliverables. She knew the dates when the deliverables were required. And she told all of this to the director of the client company. As the client confided later, okay, he was completely taken in by this young engineer's very in-depth and clear understanding of not only the project. Of course, she was expected to understand, or the Java language she was definitely expected to master. But she also had an understanding of the business of AC2, perhaps beyond her designated role or charter. And this swung the deal in SSF's favor. So they left all the other 4 companies and they gave the order to, just because of that 10-minute interaction with a frontline technology person. So all the sales and marketing effort, the swanky facilities, the enthusiasm that was shown by the top management, and impressive track record of SSF, etc., were all seen as trivial before the display of this close alignment of the company's engineering function or the technology function with the customer's business, okay, which was apparent at the working level. Now imagine, so just 10 minutes with this engineer versus all the effort and time and money required to entertain the customer in such big facilities. But what worked was this interaction or this alignment between that was demonstrated between business and technology. So the grandest sales effort, the rule here is that the grandest sales effort can only bring the customer to your door. Okay. However, an emotional connect that sort of culminates in building a long-term relationship is a factor of alignment, okay, of technology with business. That is the important lesson that you have to learn from this. Okay, and I'm sure many of you at some points in your career will be in similar situations where you will be meeting clients, where you will be working with business. What is important to demonstrate? Of course, your technical knowledge is definitely important. There is no question about that. But also demonstrating your close alignment and understanding of the business. You are all studying in one of the premier technology institutes of the country, and you will be great technologists. I have no doubt about that. But also demonstrating at the same time your alignment with the business is what is going to distinguish you and set you apart from the thousands of other people. Okay, so remember these lessons, and I would very much like you to relate such examples from your own experiences also. I can think of another example also, but we may run out of time. So I want to cover the slide. If you have time, I will return to that. That is an example of a similar nature, but it is more relating to the digital world, how the concepts like big data and social media and the cloud, etc., were used to demonstrate alignment. I hope we have time to come back to that, but for now I will, because this example that I talked about, it is not a very old example, probably about 5 years old, but it may not necessarily relate to a digital company. Okay, it may be a non-digital or before the digital era, also software companies were trying to work in the similar way that we talked about, but it demonstrates business technology alignment. And as I said, this business technology alignment actually predates the digital era. In digital era, as I mentioned, it has become a survival skill, but it is not that it did not exist before the digital era. So it is immaterial whether we talk about examples from the digital era or from the pre-digital era, and as far as demonstrating this concept is concerned. Now, there is another very important concept which I would like you all to stay with for all your lives, not today, all your lives. You have to understand this, which is called outcome-based IT. Now, IT we have spoken about, IT, or in fact, it should be ICT. So ICT, technology, IT, these are all terms which can be interchanged with each other. So outcome-based model is what we need to talk about, and this is one of the most important parts of business technology alignment. So the new normal, as they call it, is about IT being an equal stakeholder in the achievement of business results. What is business result? Outcome. So IT being an equal stakeholder. Now tomorrow in the business outcome, that is known as outcome-based IT. That means the focus of IT is not on IT, but the focus of IT is on business, which is the outcome. We'll understand this better. Now on the right, if you see, there's a little drawing which says I am a customer satisfier. Now this is an important point. See, you can join a company tomorrow or start your own business tomorrow or join the government or whatever, wherever you go to work. You may join at a certain level and then you may grow up and maybe some of you will become CEOs of companies. However, there is one role, one title that can always be, you remember that ultimately there is only one title which will satisfy every role that you will ever play in your life, and that is being a customer satisfier. Unless you think of your role as being a customer satisfier above every, you may be a software engineer, you may be a senior software engineer or project manager or an engineering director or a COO or a CEO. At the root, you are a customer satisfier. That is your role. That is why the company has hired you, to satisfy its customers. Okay, so this is also derived from the outcome-based model of IT. So in the outcome-based model, the focus of the enterprise is on making customers' experience richer. If you see the second bullet, that's what I've written. And the true measure of IT's performance is, because the true measure of IT's performance or technology's performance is the impact it has on the outcome of business processes. Outcome, the keyword is outcome. So it is, for example, earlier we talked about it in the example of that MRI scanner that we spoke about earlier, that many IT organizations or technology organizations even today have very internal norms for measuring what is the ROI, your return on investment on the money that was spent on IT. Okay, or what is the uptime of the server, or how much was an application available before it switched over to some other server. These kind of parameters are typically used for measuring the effectiveness of IT. However, they are useless as far as the impact on the customer. A customer doesn't care. How many of you care what is the uptime of a Amazon server when you are ordering merchandise from Amazon? Okay, you don't care. So similarly, focusing on internal measures is basically becoming more and more meaningless. I'm not saying they should not be focused, but they should not be publicized as benchmarks of performance. Benchmark of performance is business performance. That is what is meant by outcome-based IT, because the ultimate goal of a business is to become successful. And if IT is also aimed at that, making that result happen, then it is an outcome-based IT. So from a technology perspective, it requires focus on business outcome. That's the third bullet, rather than internal priorities, which have traditionally been driving IT. So focus on the business outcome. Okay, so I can give you some examples, though I would like to ask you, but I'm not sure whether you would be, like, for example, many of you may be using prepaid phones. Now you go for a recharge. Of course, a lot of us these days recharge from the online only, but suppose you go to a recharge shop now, or even on your on-site portal. What is the recharge interval? How long does it take for your recharge to happen? Does it happen in 1 second, or do you have to make three minutes for it to happen? That is a measure of IT. Okay, not how long was the server, how the server performed, or how the switchover happened, or how the application uptime was measured. All those things you don't care about. Okay, or for example, when you get an OTP, if you're doing a bank transaction, does the OTP come instantly when you make a transaction, or do you have to wait 5 minutes for the OTP to come, and by which time your banking transaction has timed out? So that is another measure of outcome-based IT. Or I can think of many examples. Wait time at a call center. How long do you have to wait before the call center person responds? That is also a measure of the outcome-based IT. So the IT has to be focused on making the experience better for the customer, rather than focusing on its own internal priorities of how qualified my engineers are, what is the average level of engineers in my organization, what is the uptime of server, what is the response time to complaint. These things are no longer important. And that is what is meant by outcome-based IT. So outcome-based IT is a key consequence of business IT alignment. Without outcome-based IT, there is no concept of alignment. So outcome-based model is I'm sure it is clear to all of you already, but it's a prerequisite for digital transformation. Let me move quickly. Let me give you some larger scale examples. And as for your assignment, I would request you to give me some more examples. Look at the production or manufacturing industry. Earlier, the goal of IT, or the outcome, or the focus of IT used to be on automation of process workflow, or the enterprise resource planning, installing a ERP software, etc. Now that is no longer true. Now IT is concerned with JIT, or just-in-time manufacturing, that what is the demand, what is the supply, and what is the utilization of resources in between. Is there too much wastage? Is there shortage? Those are the concerns that IT teams also have to be tuned to. Is the production lean? Is there any wastage? Okay, so in a typical production environment, those are the outcomes that IT is measured upon. It is not measured on what was the uptime, or what was the ROI. If you look at the banking industry, earlier in the non-outcome based model of IT, the role of IT was computerization or management information reports, etc. No longer. Now IT is concerned with internet and mobile banking services to customers, fulfillment of customer orders through online channels, securing transactions, that means providing security to bank's customers. These are, if a bank customer does not feel secure, it is not a business failure, it is a failure of the technology organization, because now the focus of technology is on the outcome. This is what is meant by outcome based IT. Look at airlines today. I remember, and probably Ravi would also remember, there used to be a time when if you have to travel by air, the only airline was Indian Airlines. You had to go to an office somewhere in the middle of the city and wait, and then they gave you a paper ticket when your turn came, and it used to be a very cumbersome process. Today, look at the speed and convenience. All that is enabled how? Through technology, through IT. The customer loyalty, that loyalty programs that companies run, through which you get to free travel, real-time information on tracking of flights, of where they are coming, when they are landing, when they are taking off, all that is available. There are display screens. So this is the role of outcome-based IT on the airline industry, how they have transformed the whole industry. Imagine if the IT team of these airlines were only focused on maintaining uptime of servers or response time to complaints. So IT is no longer an emergency response team. It is a equal participant in the delivery or attainment of business results. This is what outcome-based IT means. Finally, telecom industry, where I come from, keeping the light bulbs on means making sure that things are working. That is no longer the focus of IT. Now the IT's focus is on reducing time to market. That means bringing a product or a new payment plan quickly to the market before the competition. Monetization, you are offering data services, but how can you get money for that? How can you translate the service into money? Okay, loyalty, churn, that means preventing customers from moving it. All these are the objectives which are given to IT people. Okay, your goal is not to be good in technology and ensure that you are able to keep the server working. It is basically to ensure business results. So these are some examples of outcome-based IT. Now on the next slide, now typically to achieve outcome test, there's a very simple test for outcome focus. Essentially, business and IT teams have to work together. They have to stay together, stay in touch, talk to each other, correspond with each other, and most importantly, present themselves to the customer together. Okay, now in order to assure alignment, there are a few questions before any project that IT is doing for the organization or for the enterprise. There are certain things on which business and IT need to have clear and same answers. If all business and IT answer the same thing for these 5 questions before the project or before any operation that you are doing for the customer in a digital enterprise, then that means you are aligned. For example, first thing, do we know and agree on the purpose of doing this? IT cannot be a mindless wheel turner that, okay, business has said this, so I'm doing it, but I don't know why I'm doing it. No, that doesn't work. So the technology teams have to understand and agree with the business on the purpose of doing this. That means the why. Second is the business outcome clearly defined and understood? That means what to expect. Thirdly, do we have agreement on the cost and time? This is the biggest source of a battle between business and IT earlier. But so do we have understanding on all these things before we launch the project? Fourth is, are we clear on how to measure the business outcome and its impact? This is very important. This is where most of the companies fail. They don't know how to measure whether the work is successful or not. And finally, is there agreement on the business case to improve the outcome? You cannot end once you have met the outcome. You have to see if it can be done better, and then you repeat the cycle. So if you want to test the focus on outcome, you have to answer. Business and IT have to give, or business and technology have to give the same answer to each of these questions. I have 5 minutes more, but an important topic is still left. Okay, this IT architecture is what I'm coming to, because this business technology alignment is not just a function of behavior and culture. It has to be pre-planned and inbuilt into the foundation of the organization. Okay, I'm not going to go into the key concepts of IT architecture, because I believe that Dr. Ravi Mittal is already taking classes on that subject. The only thing that I want to talk about here and touch upon here rather is just a quick diversion. IT architecture, the dark blue box, if you see here, is the foundational set of principles and guidelines, okay, which are built by an enterprise to support the operations, business operations rather, efficiently. So basically IT operations is what makes IT architecture is what makes the business operations to run more efficiently. Okay, so the IT architecture provides a common platform, like we can see here, on which all the enterprise services are built. Services like business services, applications, information and content, governance, communication, interfaces with other applications, software development, and future services. So while you can build more services, you do not need to change the architecture, because architecture is at the foundation. However, building this architecture is a joint effort of business and technology teams together. It is not just a responsibility of a technology team, but business has to understand what it takes to build the architecture that will support its future roadmap. So there are three layers we talk about: computing platform, which is hardware, virtualization, and operating system. Then the IT architecture, which is constant, more or less fixed. Okay, it can change, of course, it is not fixed for life, but it is not altered by addition of more and more services. And the top is the enterprise services. So you can add more services on the same architecture. So the architecture has to be supportive, and it has to factor in business technology alignment at that stage itself. So it has to be embedded. Now, for example, in the next slide, and that's the last slide, I will see what are the factors that have to be considered in the IT architecture. Let's look at this little diagram on the left, for example. That every organization has a business strategy. That business strategy drives the IT strategy. The IT strategy defines the IT architecture. And so it's a cycle, and the IT architecture then enables the IT strategy to happen, and which in turn has an influence on business strategy. Now, this looks a bit complicated. It is not. I'm not going into that, but my more focus is on this diagram. If you look at the various white colored boxes from the previous slide, I have just expanded and opened it. So basically, there are certain aspects like development, which means innovation, speed, simplicity, or embedding security as a standard, interactive user experience. These are all factors of business technology alignment. Now, these have to be built into the architecture framework itself, so that when you have to respond to the dynamic nature of the digital environment and business that customers expect from you, you do not have to make foundational changes. So basically, building the architecture is a very critical part of business technology alignment. Both business and technology have an equal stake in building and deciding the architecture, which will support the future businesses. It is closely tied to the roadmap of the company. So understanding this is important, that having an architecture which is not which is supportive of future business requirements of the company is very critical, and therefore it requires business and technology to work together. Fortunately, there are some standard architecture frameworks that are available that have already got a lot of this built in, and you can you still have to customize it for your environment, of course. For example, one of the most famous one is Zachman EAI. EAI is Enterprise Application Integration. That's a very famous, very popular architecture framework, which is used world over by most companies. And the new and more emerging one today is called TOGAF. TOGAF is the Open Group Architecture Forum, which has come out with its own business aligned IT architecture. So basically, these are architectures which are available, which are used, which have pre-built business IT integration in them. So you build your services on top of that, and you are already assuring alignment. But as I said, the architecture is one aspect of it. More of it is driven by your attitude, behavior, thinking, and that is a lot more important. Okay, so I know that we have been just able to touch upon it, but for most of you, these are not new concepts. So I will leave you with that, but I think since we have 2 minutes, 3-4 minutes more left, I will leave you with another example, a story which you will. This is from my own experience. So I was an engineering head of my company's delivery center in Bangalore. I think this was in late 90s or something. So I had once submitted a proposal in response to a customer inquiry from Texas in the United States. And in a few weeks, I learned that our proposal had been accepted and that the customer had invited our company for a technical round. So I traveled all the way from Bangalore to Dallas, fully prepared to present our technical proposal and to answer any questions or queries that may come from the customer on our approach, which I had included in the presentation. But after my presentation there, when the questions started, I was shocked, because these questions were not directed at me or any of my team members and colleagues who were with me. Instead, these were directed from the companies or my potential customers' own business group to their technology group, which were both of whom were part of the meeting. Okay, and they were pointing fingers at each other. The questions were as basic as business was asking about what is the current IT capability, what is the share of responsibility between business and IT, or what are the business benefits of the project, who is going to pay for the project, what is the staff availability, which meant that these guys had never before spoken to each other. There was no concept of alignment between business and technology. None of them knew what the other was doing. So this came as a shock to us. In fact, there came a point when it almost became a fight or a scuffle between the customers' internal teams. In fact, it was very embarrassing, actually, to be frank, for us to be sitting there just like mute spectators watching two of your customers fight with each other. So it was very embarrassing for us to witness it. But the most surprising part was that this project, for which we had traveled all the way and for which this company had come out with this request for proposal, this was for that company's most important global client. In fact, I will say it now, it was for Vodafone, which was their biggest customer at that time globally, not in India, but it was a global contract. And in spite of having such a large customer contract at stake, these people were not aligned together. And ultimately, they didn't get the contract. In fact, we came to know that the whole project was scrapped by Vodafone. Okay, I'm sure it was because Vodafone or their end customer actually did not see a unified response from its existing supplier. So they decided not to go ahead with the project, and they probably lost millions of dollars. Okay, so while this example may seem extreme, it is not. Unfortunately, business and IT alignment is still a platitude. Platitude means something that is you only talk about but don't convert into action. It is still a platitude and not a reality in most organizations. So that is something that you need to avoid as you go into your future. So I hope this is all the time that we have, that the concept and the importance and the need for business technology alignment in the quick discussion that we had. By the way, I have done classes for enterprises and corporates on business technology alignment for 2 days. Okay, with exercises and with more depth and more examples and use cases and case studies, etc. So covering it all in about 50 minutes is not easy, and it's not only me, but it's difficult for you also, I'm sure. But I still hope that the core concepts of this are clear, and more importantly, why it is such an important enabler of digital transformation. Okay, so that's all. I will leave it there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any question?
Thank you, sir.
Any question?
Thank
Please feel free to ask question. Others can, of course, leave.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay.